Welcome to Created Healthy. I'm Dawn Combs. It's a common idea that God gave us everything we need in nature, but do we believe it enough to walk that out in truth? Often the very same people who say this go looking for answers on how to use food and medicine from man-made sources. Everything man creates comes with a user's manual. Why would God be any different? I challenge you to join me in seeking revelation about our body, mind, soul, and spirit health by digging into His written word and in practicing pure science in the visible world of His creation. It's clear to me that God is a God of details, and He wants us to pay attention to the details and not just gloss over and assume. Assume is a word that we use a lot in our household. I think you can assume after you know somebody for a really long time. You can assume you know what they're going to think. You can assume that you've got their permission or their go-ahead. And I see a lot of that happening throughout Numbers 20 through 22 that I'm reading today. So in these chapters, Miriam, the wife of Aaron, dies. She is buried in Kadesh. And once again, Israel gets into a situation where there is no water. And once again, surprise, surprise, they grumble. And they start to complain. And they go against Moses and Aaron. And the really funny thing is, they're getting creative with their complaints. If only we had died like the 250 people that went along with the uprising did, when God just burnt them all down. They seem to believe, and then they turn around and they look at Moses and they're like, why did you do this? You aren't really a good person to follow. And they start to go back into that, like, we don't believe you. We don't really believe that you're talking to God thing. So it's like they get that God is scary and awesome and can destroy them. And they seem to be somewhat aware of that. But then they doubt that Moses has been His chosen mouthpiece and that what Moses is saying to them is what God is communicating. So there's this doubt that Moses must be really frustrated to hear. So he goes to God about the water, and God gives him very specific instructions to take the rod and assemble everyone together. And while everybody is watching, he is supposed to speak to the rock and it will give water. Very specific. God doesn't have to communicate with humanity. So when He does, every word matters. He's not just talking to hear Himself talk. So He has specifically told Moses what to do. And Moses goes, and I think about him being distracted by the lack of faith that everybody has in his relationship with God. That he truly gets to speak with God, talk back and forth. He has this sort of relationship that is unheard of, and none of them could grasp it. Not even Aaron. Aaron doesn't fully grasp what this is, and he's the priest. But Moses must be distracted here. And instead of following God's instructions to the letter, he gathers them all together and he says to the people, shall we bring forth water? And it's almost as if here he's accidentally taking credit. Now, he may know that this comes from God, but he's trying to maybe take a little bit of the credit here. And he's finally trying to get them to see that, yeah, God is speaking through me. God's giving me this authority. And he strikes the rock twice, which he wasn't told to do. Water comes, but unfortunately, God talks to him later and says, since you decided not to hold me as holy and show me in front of the people as the source of that water, I am going to have to punish you, and you will never be allowed into the land where I'm taking everybody. I don't think this is such a huge blow to Moses, because all the way along he has continually asked God to just kill him. If he has to deal with these people anymore, could he just kill him and have done? So I don't know that Moses is devastated here. I think he's kind of at peace with it, but this is the payment. So they are traveling, and now Aaron dies. Aaron is gathered to his people, and his son Eliezer is given his priestly clothes. They go up Mount Hor with Aaron. They come down without him, and Eliezer is now the priest. And they have a fight with Arad, and God smites those people and wipes them out. And then we come to a part that I struggle with. I spent a lot of time looking into the bronze serpent, because as they are walking around Edom, because their relatives will not let Israel cross their land, the Israelites get impatient again, and they start complaining, and God gets angry again, same old, and he sends poisonous snakes among them. And everybody who's getting bit is dying. They're very poisonous snakes. And so Moses goes and says, hey, what can I do about this? And God says, take a serpent and cast it out of bronze and lift it up on a pole, and then tell the people that anybody who looks at the serpent will be healed. And since I look at the serpent around a stake as the caduceus, this is something that was part of the cult of Asclepius that is now the root of modern Western medicine. I think a lot of times people are looking at this staff with a snake from Moses as being connected as this great healing and a way to rationalize the God worship that is in Western medicine and associate it with what Moses does here. But I think that we really have to look deeper as to what the meaning is. I really just, I couldn't fathom why. Why would God ask Moses to do this? But the more I dug, my thinking here is that the people are being, it's like a plague. So the plague in Egypt, when Moses was going back and forth with the Pharaoh, when God let loose a natural occurrence, hail, locusts, it was always one and done. It was there and gone the next day. And the goal was for Pharaoh to see Moses communicating with God and God responding, and it was applied and then taken away. And here the snakes come among them as a punishment. It is they're sinning by revolting against God, by not having faith, by not trusting, and they just don't seem to get this. They can't just learn it in an abstract concept. They need to feel it and see it. And so God sends these snakes among them, but he doesn't remove them the next day. There's no suggestion that these aren't just sort of part of their day-to-day living now, which would line up with if you're trying to teach a people that your sin, your disrespect is killing you every day. You have to be aware of this. You have to live with this. You have to watch out for this, much like daily sacrifices and the things that were being told they had to do there at the tabernacle. This is a practice. They have to be aware of God every day. So now God's making them very aware of what sin is doing to them every day. In looking through some of the symbolism for what might be going on here, I discovered the symbolism of bronze, which is what God instructs Moses to make this snake out of. And bronze is about being aware of judgment. It is being judged. It's something that is being judged. And lifting a snake would be on the ground. It doesn't fly, it doesn't jump, it's never up at your eye level, much less being hanging from a stake above your head. So this has been lifted up for all to see. So the snakes around their feet are where they are dwelling. down. The Israelites are down along the ground. They're not being their elevated selves. They are crawling, they are in degradation, and the snakes are there with them, and they're just looking down, looking down, looking down. Throughout the Bible, we will see this notion of looking up and getting revelation. We saw it with Abraham sitting at the opening of his tent when God visited him before destroying Sodom and Gomorrah. He looked up and saw. We see a lot of this throughout, this notion of looking up and seeing. So here, in order for healing to occur, the Israelites are having to look up. They're having to look away from the snakes at their feet. And if they were bitten, they would have to go in search. There's only one snake. The camp is pretty big. So if you get bitten, you're going to have to go in search of Moses where he is with this staff so that you can look up and look at this snake that's cast in bronze, that's about judgment. And the snakes, it's a snake cast in judgment. It's a visible representation of the thing that is oppressing them, the thing that is hurting them and killing them, being judged. And by looking up and acknowledging it, they are healed. So I think for me, the only way that I can see my way through this is that the bronze snake is a symbol of what God is trying to get them to see here, that they continually are putting themselves in harm's way. And it is their own fault, and that is being judged. And in order to be healed, they have to face it. They have to look up at it. They have to look up and raise themselves up out of their base selves and look up towards God for healing. So everybody that looks at the serpent then is healed. And they bury a lot of people. And then they travel on. And Israel is asking for passage through different areas as they travel, and folks are saying no. And they're getting close to the Moab king's area. They come upon Balak, and he is the king, and he gets really concerned. And so here we see the introduction of Balaam. And who knows, if you're a scholar and you just know that I said that wrong, please excuse me. Balaam, Balaam, is a prophet. He is not a false prophet. He's a bad one. He's a prophet for that is taking advantage of the gift that God has given him. And God clearly takes advantage of that to use it as a message. But we are introduced here. Balak sends for Balaam to come and curse Israel because they are nearby his kingdom, and he is worried that they are going to overtake him. And if he can just get Balaam, who is rumored to be really powerful, to come and curse Israel, then maybe he can protect his kingdom. And God does talk to Balaam, even though he isn't a righteous man. He talks to him and says, don't go. I stand with Israel. You cannot curse them. They are blessed by me. And so he doesn't. Balak sends another group of even more important people. And Balaam says, nothing can make me go against God. It's contrary to God's command to curse Israel. This is my God. He calls God his Lord. So he's claiming this, but he's also not actually a righteous man. But God comes to him at night and says, you can go if they call to you in the morning. But if you go, you must say only what I give you to say. And Balaam thinks that he and God are chums. And in his own interest, he really wants to go and get paid. And even though he doesn't follow the letter of the law here, he gets up the next day and he goes directly to the princes that are in this envoy. And he says, hey, I'm going with you, because he has assumed that he's got God's permission, but he missed the details. So this is where I think, again, God is in the details. God is about the details of what he speaks. There is no word that's wasted. And here he says, you can go if they call to you. There was a reason. There was a plan there. And Balaam went around it. And then we have this famous moment on the road where God is angry that Balaam has gone without following the exact nature of his word. And here he is on the road, and his poor donkey can see the angel of the Lord with a sword barring the way, but he cannot, because Balaam is looking down. Balaam is looking down at his own interests, much like the Israelites at the beginning of this session here with us. He's looking down. He's thinking about himself. He's in his sin. And as the donkey tries 3 times to go around, to lay down, to crush him against the wall, to keep him from walking into this angel that's going to kill him, he beats the donkey. And finally it says that God opens the donkey's mouth. And this is a really cool, another incident. People say all the time that nature doesn't speak. And this is another incident in the Bible where we have written, it's right in front of you, that God has nature speak. And he's speaking through nature. So the donkey kind of says, well, I'm trying to save you here, dude. Stop beating on me. I didn't do anything to you. And sure enough, Balaam's eyes are opened and he sees the angel of the Lord, and he realizes what he's been doing and realizes his mistake. And he realizes that he needs to repent for what he did wrong, and he gets his instructions again. But I think throughout these chapters, that's what sticks out to me, is this notion that God doesn't just say things and in generalities where we can sort of understand what he said, and we'll put it into our own words and our own motivations, and then we'll go forward in the spirit of what God said rather than the letter of the law. God is absolutely a letter of the law entity, because why would he bother to speak to us in the beginning? There's no reason to speak at all unless every word matters. And I think it's such a critical lesson. Moses unfortunately learns it, and he's going to pay, kind of a hard price. And Balaam will have to catch up with on another day. I pray that God is blessing you today, as all days. And I will see you here to catch up with Balaam on another day. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share with a friend. And I'm always interested in hearing what God is laying on your heart. So drop me a rating or review, or join the conversation on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube at Don Combs Really.